Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this AMPO webinar. This webinar is brought to you by our Active Transportation Interest Group. We have 4 leaders for that interest group who help us choose great topics and speakers for webinars throughout the year, and we're excited to bring you this one. So looks like everyone's in from the waiting room. I will move on to one quick housekeeping slide. Don't think I introduced myself. Ellen Zaviska, I serve on AMPO's staff as Transportation Planning Manager. Glad to have you all with us. We've got your mics muted as you come in. If you don't mind to keep them muted so we don't get background noise while our speakers are doing their thing. You're welcome, however, at any point to put your comments or questions in the chat box. We encourage a lively conversation in the chat box. We do record the meeting, and we also use a transcript to put together notes, which we will share with our members along with the slides after the webinar. We're starting to share the recordings too, so hopefully we'll be able to share this recording. And if you don't mind to put your organization into your Zoom handle so we know where you're joining us from. With that, I'll introduce our moderator. Anita Janke is on the staff of the Central Texas COG and the Killeen Temple NPO in Central Texas. She's got more than a decade of experience in that field, community collaboration, public awareness, has a bachelor's in human services, has a training in nonprofit management. She's done a lot of things around community participation, inclusive discussions, all those good things that NPOs and other public agencies do. And she also enjoys gardening, hiking, and serving in her local church. And with that, I will ask Anita to introduce our speakers today.
Thank you so much, Ellen. Today's topic is from big wells to regional trails. And you may be wondering, hey, what's a big well got to do with regional trails? Well, in the fundraising industry, big wells are those donors that fund our big, wild dreams. And so today we're going to be learning from 2 industry experts who happen to have the same name but different spellings. And I just saw that Kendra, my supervisor, just hopped on. So now we're going to have several Kendras. We have Kendra Green, Kendra Ramsey, and a few Kendras inside of the chat room. So thank y'all all for joining us. This session is really about philanthropy and how to plan for trails outside of government funding. We're going to learn some innovative approaches. And do you mind going to the next slide, please, Ellen? Our first speaker is Kendra Green, and she's the executive director of the Elizabeth River Trail. I highly encourage everyone to pop over to that website. It's a beautiful trail, beautiful opportunity to walk in probably some of the most beautiful places in the world. Kendra has a rich, robust history of serving in the nonprofit industry. She started off in AmeriCorps Virginia Service Corporation as a natural resource ranger, and from there she held several nonprofit leadership roles on community building and economic development. She's a certified interpretive guide, a Tidewater Master Naturalist, and co-chair of Tidewater Chapter of Virginia Master Naturalist. And she believes that everyone deserves safe access to green space and that trails can transform communities. And next slide, please. And Kendra Ramsey is with CalBike. Kendra's the executive director of the California Bicycle Coalition, and she advocates for equitable inclusion and prosperous communities where bicycling helps to enable all Californians to lead healthy and joyful lives. She spent several years in state government, advising agency staff on active transportation planning, design, and programming. And she's the director-elect of Sacramento Valley section of the American Planning Association. She's also the president of the Pedestrian and Bicycle Professionals, and she is certified by the American Institute of Certified Planners and holds a Master of Science in Community Development from UC Davis and a BA in Sociology. At that, we're going to turn it over to Kendra for, we're going to have a few polls. And so we're going to start off with one of our first polls. And let's see. Are you aware of a trail project in your region with nonprofit private funding? And you can go ahead and go for it, Kendra, when you're ready.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Can I have a thumbs up that everyone can see? Are we good, Anita? Yep. Okay, fantastic. All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Kendra Green. I have the privilege of serving as the executive director of the Elizabeth River Trail Foundation here in Norfolk, Virginia, where I am talking to you from today. It is actually a really balmy, like close to 70 degrees today here in Norfolk. So really excited to be speaking with you and also to learn from Kendra in California and her trail today. So sharing a little bit about the trail itself and then our foundation. We are a 10.5 mile urban waterfront trail in Norfolk, Virginia. So I'm gonna flip. I'm getting a little, oh, here we go. So here is an overview of our trail with our eastern terminus at Norfolk State University, which you may know of. It is a large HBCU in the country. It's anchored at one end by Norfolk State and at the other end by the Norfolk International Terminals, otherwise known as the Port of Virginia. So we've got along that 10.5 miles, all of our major employers, economic generators, our healthcare system, our shipbuilders, many concentrations of cultural and historic attractions, and really just economic generators throughout our city. And by design, our trail stays as close to the waterfront as possible. We are very proud of our working waterfront and the maritime history that we tell here in Norfolk. And we believe that not only can the trail be a major economic generator, but it can be a storyteller, first and foremost to the history along our trail, but also because we sit again so close to the river, a storyteller to the changing waterfront and to the rising sea levels. Norfolk, if you don't know, is second only to New Orleans for sea level rise on the East Coast, and we are very much at the front doorstep of that. So I'm going to share a little bit. Mentioned that our one terminus is at Norfolk State University. So we've been working hard to try to engage the students out of campus and onto the trail as they explore that. And then we also have Old Dominion University, ODU, which is on our trail as well. And we have a loop that runs through campus. So we have two universities, as well as our Eastern Virginia Medical School, EVMS. Recently, those three institutions formed a partnership to become the one school of public health. So I think I'm probably preaching to the choir when I say that many of us know that trails can address a lot of problems and concerns, and public health is certainly at the forefront of one of the things that trails can address. So having that school of public health, those three different institutions unite, and all three of them have a presence along the trail can really tell a story of how we can play a part in obesity, high blood pressure, pre-diabetes, all of those things. So it's kind of exciting to see that all coming together. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about how the foundation came to be. So this is one of our iconic spots on the Elizabeth River Trail. You're looking at the USS Wisconsin, which is a a retired battleship that sits here at our waterfront, and behind that is Nauticus. It's our maritime history museum, and the trail runs right in front of that. You literally have history at your fingertips right here on our trail. So the trail, the 10.5 miles of urban trail front, was fairly loosely connected, but not really activated until around 2015. So I'm going to lean you all into this for a minute. And this is what many cities across our nation are facing right now. So Norfolk went through a real period of brain drain. So we had those great institutions, HBCU, NSU, ODU, EVMS, and our brightest minds were graduating and then relocating to Richmond, to Charlotte, to Raleigh, DC, leaving Norfolk. So staying here for school and then leaving. So we had the brain drain situation. And then we had a situation with real attraction and retention of talent and jobs. So the Greater Norfolk Corporation, which serves as a little bit of an economic development nonprofit for our city, kept trying to solve this problem, right? What can we do? What can the business community do about this? And the leader of the organization at the time of Greater Norfolk kind of looked around the room and realized that there was a missing factor in the room. Everyone was around the same age, around the same demographic. And he started thinking, okay, we're trying to attract and retain young talent. Maybe we should go to the young professionals. So a lot of credit to the Greater Norfolk Corporation for turning around and going to the young up and coming entrepreneurs of our city, those that were starting, architecture firms and software firms, and literally asking the question of them and the business community, how do we attract and retain talent? How do we prevent brain drain? And it was those young professionals that said, the answer's right in front of you. It's right in front of you. It's the Elizabeth River Trail. So we literally spun off of that organization to form a 501c3, the Elizabeth River Trail Foundation, charged with the mission of activating and enhancing this trail to attract and retain talent and serve as an economic generator and economic engine. So we leaned into what was uniquely Norfolk, right? We have that working waterfront, that maritime history, that access to the water. So much of our waterfront does not have open access. We've got the port, the Navy, all of the shipbuilding. So having that open access that people can see and be a democratized access to the trail, that was important. So leaning into that and advertising that. So then we started doing what all great trails do. We looked at placemaking, right? So finding pockets along the trail that would highlight the uniqueness that is Norfolk. So I love this picture. This is it's just an open space. A lot of skateboarders hang out here, but the backdrop is literally our working waterfront. It's tugs, it's cranes, it's cargo ships, it's destroyers, it's barges. It's this constantly moving waterfront, and we have some of the most beautiful sunsets you'll ever see. But we started looking at placemaking and how do we find these pockets of green space throughout our very urban environment to create this community where people can gather. And then through that, how does a trail become more than just a trail? How does it start solving some of those pressing problems, the attraction and retention, the physical and mental health challenges, serving as outdoor recreation, serving as transportation? We're not just outdoor recreation. Trails are transportation for our city. They are infrastructure. And then, as I mentioned when I started this conversation, We are right along the water. We are faced with rising tides. So how do we look at building trails that are resilient, that are dealing with the challenges that we have, the environmental challenges that we have, and how do we build sustainable, resilient trails? Through that, building up an economic engine that's connecting those employers, looking at workforce development, meeting those quality of life and social determinants of health that are pressing to everyone. And through that, we know that trails equal equity. Equity in Norfolk, one end of my trail does not look like the other end of the trail. Norfolk is a city that bears the scars of segregation. The trail intersects many socioeconomic areas, but we connect 28 neighborhoods within a 5-minute walk of the trail. And we give everyone access to this place that can get you to all of these economic generators. Okay, so I want to tell you how we got there. Starting the trail, the foundation with a capital campaign, really this idea, hey, we've got this loosely connected trail, we need to activate it and enhance it. And that means making sure there are places to sit, that it's safe, that it's accessible for all wheels, wheelchairs, rollerblades, skateboards, bikes, etc. That it is safe, that we can run a trail ambassador program along it, that we've got picnic tables and placemaking and public art and lighting, all of those things that make a trail a trail. And so the business community rallied around us. And first and foremost, we did have a public-private partnership with our city. So the foundation was doing all of the programming, planning, advocacy, maintaining, fundraising, marketing, all of the things. And the city was like, okay, let's see what you can do, right? So they provided some financial support, but it was the business community that really rallied around that. So you can see the different levels. These are a lot of the organizations that started off our capital campaign. A lot of businesses, a lot of mid-sized businesses. We only have in our area one Fortune 500 company, and pretty disparate group of folks. And so that kicked us off. So then we had to go to our individual donors and start pitching our story, and simultaneously building out the trail. So I get to show you some of that. So again, this is our mission statement. It's evolved over the years. This is what we work with right now. We are advocating for the connection from Naval Station Norfolk to our Virginia Beach Trail. That's our neighboring line, right where Norfolk and Virginia Beach meet. Our neighboring city, Virginia Beach, is building a citywide trail that's going to go to the oceanfront. We have to connect our trails. We have to. There's no question. We have to have a regional connection. So I'm working hard to get there. All right, so here's our overview. This has always been the plan. So 2015, this was the map. This is not something new that we need to get to Virginia Beach. This was our map from 2015. We have to connect from Naval Station Norfolk to the Virginia Beach Trail. So imagine going from the largest naval station in the world to the ocean front. It's pretty exciting. Okay, so let's see. All right. So we've got on the left, you'll see, our rock cards that we have. This is our trail. These are all of our trailheads and kind of transportation stops along the way. And then because we are right along the water, you'll see what we refer to as our Blue Way or Blue Trail, activating kayak launches and water stops throughout. Currently, we have 2 kayak launches that we've constructed, and we have another one under construction this winter that we hope to bring aboard in our northern part of the trail at Larchmont Library this spring. Okay, so activating the trail. This area was our first trailhead. This launched in 2020, right during the height of COVID. But this was a former dump site for spoils of a tunnel that went between Norfolk and Portsmouth. And we were able to reclaim this as green space and really activate it as placemaking for the city. Now, through that, we got a lot of grant opportunities. We looked to the port. We were able to get an aid to ports grant to help fund the kayak launch that goes along here. There's our kayak launch that's jutting out right here. Lots of grants through our community foundation. I'm sure many of your cities here on the webinar have community foundations, and we pitched this whole idea to our community foundation through a Vibrant Places fund, and they supported this initiative because we are activating our community. We are creating vibrant spaces for our region. And that helped fund a lot of this first initial trailhead. And then a couple years, I think this launched in 2018, a couple years after we were established, Greater Norfolk Corporation formed another nonprofit, the NIC, or the Norfolk Innovation Corridor, where they took the already existing Elizabeth River Trail and they created a technology zone. So again, they're looking at everything that we already had in place, the medical school, the Fort Norfolk complex, the universities, all of our craft breweries, some technology centers, and they created a thriving technology zone where the Elizabeth River Trail serves as the backbone for it. And so we have this other opportunity now to attract and retain talent, because guess what? Statistics show that people move to a location, 77% of them move to a location because of their access to walking trails and transportation, 77%. So if we can use this as a way to bring talent, both through technology and just economic development, it's a great marriage. So between our innovation corridor and our trail. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these slides really quickly because I get to show all of the things that we've done with this capital campaign. So there was not signage on our trail. You could not really tell that you were on a trail. So we have since created a very clear brand, beautiful signage that is well known, didactic signs that show where you are going and where you're at, informational signs and language. We have public art. That's the Release the Kraken statue that you see in the background. We've highlighted our green spaces as much as we can. Again, we are a very urban trail, but we have built out areas where you're getting this green sanctuary along juxtaposed with our cityscape along the way. We have created spaces where there are picnic tables, ADA accessible picnic tables, benches, trailhead shelters with signage. That's Plum Point Park, which is that former dump site that I mentioned. Investing in active outdoor recreation. We serve a huge military community here. This is our double turbo obstacle course that is always in use with our military doing their PT training. And again, with our stunning water views, play structures, raising money. Again, we are raising private funds for this public amenity to enjoy. And then the foundation is then installing and managing these projects as we install them for the community. We then gift them once they're installed back to the city. I like to pause on this slide because this is the first of its kind on the East Coast. This is our glow line. It is a section of our trail that glows in the dark. This is a real picture. This is not a rendering. And this section of trail runs through a park as lots of parts of our trail run through city parks. Parks are closed from dusk to dawn, but the trail as infrastructure is open 24/7. This was a very important section of trail that is between both of those universities, well, our Eastern Virginia Medical School and Old Dominion University and our downtown area. So it was a very dark section. And we needed to determine, how do we illuminate the trail and not the park around it? So this is something we look to Europe, the Netherlands. They have been doing biking and trails much at a great rate, much better than we do, right? So we look to the successes there. And we found this technology. This is ambient glow technology. These are glow stones that we embedded in this section of trail. They absorb the sun during the day and emit a glow for about 6 to 8 hours from sundown on. It was very important for us that this be illuminated and that this also be environmentally friendly, as on the other end of this section of trail, there is a bird and wildflower sanctuary, but this does not disrupt any bird migration patterns. So this is, we actually have our glow party this Saturday. It's an annual event. So we love celebrating this. This is one of the kayak launches that I mentioned. We've built out 2, and we're building another ADA accessible kayak launches. And then programming. A trail is just a trail if it's not activated. So we program our trail. We have adaptive bikes and trikes, believing that everyone deserves the right to wind in their hair. And we program for our seniors, our veterans, and our people that are differently able to get them out on the trail as well. Programming includes pop-up roller rinks, yoga. We had every 4 years we do the Olympics, and on non-Olympic years, we do field day events. We have bike repair stations all along our 10.5 miles. Again, these are just events. And then some funding opportunities I want to share. It's very important to us because we're working with our military community, that we're researching funding, that there are occasions when the DoD spends funds outside of their military installation. And the trail, again, is quality of life. We are working on improving quality of life for our neighbors, for our region, for our military service members, whether they're just here for 2 years, 4 years, or they choose to stay here and make their family time here, which we hope. We want them to feel connected. So we've been working very hard with our military community, and through that, we've found many funding opportunities. REPI, the Readiness and Environmental Protection Integration Program, provides military funding because we fall within the Tidewater Sentinel landscape, meaning we're within 15 miles of a military installation. The DSIP, the Defense Community Infrastructure Program, we've received funding through DSIP to help elevate portions of our trail that have been submerged underwater. That prevents our military service members from getting to work on time. So if we want to think about the trail as a way to be service ready, to be ready to avoid flooding, to be not just a storyteller, but a bridge during flooding events, a sponge to soak up water, a source of evacuation, then we need to be ready for that. And we sold that story very convincingly because it's true. It can help in all of those ways to the DoD to get funding to elevate areas of the trail. And then I think probably many of you know of the NIFWIF, the National Coastal Resilience Fund, and these are nature-based solutions. So these are all things that have been successful for us, as well as those foundations like the Hampton Roads Community Foundation and such. I want to linger on this for a moment. Storytelling is very important to us in a community that can be economically and racially divided, where our trail follows a lot of the redlining that was done in the 60s, and has communities that were historically separated due to divisive highway infrastructure, our trail helps to break that down, right? It's providing access to water and to fresh food and to employment and education. And so we've worked with a local podcast group, which is now on kind of a bit on a national stage, to do a storytelling project, Truth Be Told on the Elizabeth River Trail, where we are telling stories, living history stories. These are stories of our African American neighbors within our 28 neighborhoods that are living history. They are telling their stories of how we all have common ground. And our current season, season 5, has debuted. And this was entirely funded through grants. We received our first ever National Park Service grant for this program, as well as a Virginia Humanities grant to fully fund this. This was able to fund the storytellers, the signage, the podcast. So please, that's my shout out. Go to Truth Be Told Virginia. There are 5 seasons. The Elizabeth River Trail is season 5. We also look to our local United Way chapter, and after a lot of work and a long application, we are a certified agency through the United Way. This has been so valuable for us. Once we're a certified agency, we then are on a list for any employers who work through United Way to say, I'll participate in this year's United Way campaign, and I'm going to select the Elizabeth River Trail. So we get funds every quarter from that being a certified agency, that where people have philanthropically selected us for their giving for that year. And being a certified agent, an agency through United Way, also allows us to apply for programmatic funding, which is huge. I mean, we do over 100 programs a year. So that's been really, really beneficial for us as well, and allowed us to expand our outreach. So I mentioned the Virginia Beach Trail, our neighbor trail. I'm keeping an eye on my timer too. Oh gosh, I didn't even set it. How am I doing? Um, okay. Yep, I think we're okay. Are we okay? Okay, good. So Virginia Beach Trail is the 12-mile trail that is running from the Norfolk line to the ocean front. And it is incredibly, I'm going back here. Sorry. So Newtown Transit Hub, that is where our lines divide, and it is a transit hub. We have a light rail system that literally stops at the city line. So there was an opportunity for Virginia Beach to vote and have the light rail continue to their city, but they voted against that in a referendum many years ago, which was sad, but it's okay, because where the rail didn't go, the trail will go. So it's incredibly important for us to work with our neighboring cities to show the importance of that connection, that economic connection. So I've got some statistics, and again, you probably know this, but when trails connect, the economic impact quadruples. So I was able to share this with my city so they could understand how important it is for us to close that gap from Norfolk State to the Newtown Road line. There's about a 10-mile gap. So we have to connect with our city. The usage of trails also increases by 80% when we have that regional connection. So if we think about, again, the Virginia Beach Trail, they have been killing it through federal funding, getting safe streets for all, safe routes to school. As a nonprofit, I have not been able to apply for that level of federal funding. So it's important that I have my city understand why they need to apply for that level of federal funding. so
Kendra,
that we can connect. Yes.
I apologize for interrupting, but I want
No,
to give you
please.
just one more minute so we have enough
Yep.
time for our second speaker. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you for the time. So, very good. So, I want to show you where we're at right now. So, based on from where the prior capital campaign was, I came in and tried to pivot to individual donors. This is huge opportunity for us. How do we harness those individual donors? Garden clubs, big opportunity to lean into what they're interested in. Virginia Outdoors Foundation, Keep Norfolk Beautiful, is a conglomeration of Keep Virginia Beautiful. That is a great funder and a great source for you all. I wanted to just share our economic impact study that was grant funded. We provide about $19 million in economic output to the city of Norfolk, and culminated this year with a national recreation trail designation from the Department of the Interior. So I always like to end with a cute dog picture, and I'll leave you on that slide. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Kendra. We'll have some questions in the chat, but we're going to go ahead and let our other Kendra Ramsey, go ahead and take the stage, and then we'll ask questions at the end.
Great. Thank you so much. Really appreciated that presentation. And I will say, I feel like that is such a huge success story. I loved following the journey. I think I'm focusing more on the 101 level, and that's like your big success story. But anyway, I'll introduce myself, Kendra Ramsey. I'm the executive director of the California Bicycle Coalition. Let me actually share my slides. Got so excited by that presentation. Okay, there we go. So I am the executive director of the California Bicycle Coalition. Maybe my slide wants to advance. What is happening here? Okay. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and reshare, because that is a very strange thing that doesn't normally happen here. Let's see, play. The California Bicycle Coalition is an organization that is 30 years old. We are the voice of the bicyclist in the California State Capitol. Sorry, I'm very thrown off by the fact that my screen will not advance.
Kendra, I can share your slides in advance.
That would be fantastic. I apologize. We promise everyone we tested this ahead of time and it worked, and now it's just not working for me. My apologies. So we are the voice of the bicyclist in the California State Capitol. Our mission is to advocate for equitable, inclusive, and prosperous communities where bicycling helps to enable all Californians to lead healthy and active lives. So I would say that we are primarily focused on the transportation aspects of bicycling, the community connection, health, all those good things. And we work with local partners throughout California, some of whom are similar to Kendra's organization. Some are bicycle advocacy coalitions, some are folks who run nonprofit bike shops, those sorts of things. So kind of running the gamut. And as was mentioned in my bio, I'm a planner by training. And so we also work with a lot of planning organizations to advance projects. Next slide, please. So like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit more on the, if your goal is to have what the Elizabeth River Greenway has, what are some thoughts on how you can get there? So partnerships, building relationships, and some thoughts about working with both existing trail systems and new trails. And next slide, please. So one of, when I was coming into this thinking about the audience, folks that work at MPOs, I know the MPO in our region does excellent work thinking about the vision for regional trails, how they connect to each other, how they get sort of communicated to the public, and all those good things. One advantage to involving nonprofit partners, as you saw in the prior presentation, is we can be very nimble. We can often, mobilize a response quicker than, a governmental agency that has a set work plan and set timelines for different reporting and lots of different requirements. So, a lot of times we can jump in and help, or, form new work groups and those sorts of things. We can mobilize volunteers, and we can run campaigns to find funding. I will say the big caveat here is fundraising is a huge challenge. I love seeing that success story of the Elizabeth River Greenway. I'm sure there's a lot of work behind those numbers, but it is always a challenge to raise funds. But having tax deductible ability for gifts is a huge sell for many folks who want to invest in these types of things. Drawbacks, like I said, limited funding, limited staffing. Many nonprofits run with way fewer staff than you'd think. And nonprofits vary in their expertise. Some, a lot of organizations have Jacks and Jills of all trades, people with different abilities, but it is a great opportunity to bring in volunteers and folks with a lot of different skill sets. Next slide, please. So building relationships, thinking about how we saw in the last presentation, the Elizabeth River Greenway Foundation being started around this particular trail. I was thinking about if you were thinking about a sort of up and coming trail system in your community, how would you get there? And we have a great, well-established trail system in my community, the American River Parkway. They have a very well-established organization that helps now called the American River Parkway Foundation. I believe they were instrumental in getting it sort of fully constructed, visioned and fully constructed. And with that having been done for a few decades now, they are primarily a conservation organization at this point for that trail system and the landscape that surrounds it. So there's sort of a natural evolution there. But if you're thinking about sort of as a planner, as a staff member at an MPO, in this current environment where funding at the federal and state level can be difficult to come by for trail facilities, whether they're on road or off road, and you want to help support opportunities for trails. If organizations are not already working on that with you, some of the partnerships and relationships that can be critical here are probably also already people that you are working with. I think about the folks that volunteer to be members of bicycle and pedestrian advisory committees. Many of these folks either have a deep personal connection and or professional connection to active transportation, whether that's as sort of practitioners, planning, design, engineering, those sorts of things, whether they run outdoor nonprofits, whether they are educators. A lot of different folks are active in local advisory groups, and they are already civically minded, they're already engaged. Your local bike advocacy organization, many of these organizations are great proponents of developing new and improved infrastructure. And I know of many advocacy organizations that are at the forefront of working with their local and regional agencies to secure funding, demonstrate need, and provide the best, design information for trail systems. And, often the folks that sometimes come up as critics of how things are progressing when they're engaged in developing the developing the work, they can be really great allies. And it's really providing that opportunity for them to be key partners that can kind of unlock that potential. Also, on the organizing side, there are lots of local bike clubs and running clubs. We saw some photos of some of these folks in Kendra's presentation. I saw the sort of the November Project logo on some of those runners in the slides. And a lot of these folks want to see better trails. And they come from a variety of backgrounds and professions and have a lot of different connections. And so, going out and seeing who is in the community and who may be interested, going to, whether it's meetups or those sorts of things. Back in my planning days, those are the types of events you can pop up at to see if you can get feedback and engagement for folks to become part of a movement to build a better trail system. Next slide, please. So a number of ways that that you can help organize from your position. I think that organizations like Friends of the Trail, like a trail foundation, can really be a great home for these types of for this type of work. I can think of another similar that I've worked with on the advocacy side. The Detroit Greenways Coalition, they're doing excellent work in the Detroit area, bringing together folks to advocate for a great connected trail system across the region. They work on programming, just another example of folks doing some excellent work. And really, can have that, these sort of friends organizations can be that voice of the facility, of the future potential, and can really drive that momentum in the absence of sustained government funding. They can also solicit business sponsorships in a way that can be more challenging for a government agency and volunteers, organizing volunteers to assist with labor. We have bike coalition partners throughout the state as well who have an active role in maintaining some of the facilities in their communities. That can often require, maintenance agreements with local agencies to ensure that the proper methods are being used. But I can think of one example in one of our communities where, actually two now, where folks have gotten the bike lane sweepers that you tow with a bicycle. And so they're out there doing some maintenance, making sure the facilities are nice and clean for use when there isn't local funding to do that at the moment. So, lots of different opportunities from those small trail improvement, maintenance ideas all the way through trail development, where you can really engage some of those partners to help with that. Next slide, please. When you're thinking about new trails, a lot bigger of a lift. You saw the numbers in the millions in the previous presentation. I think this is a great place where when an MPO has come out with a planning document for the future of trail networks and can really serve as that that catalyst, that vision, getting sponsorships of that trail system through collaborative meetings, kind of starting out by hosting an informational meeting and getting folks excited about the future of the trail network, and then seeing if some of those partners that we mentioned can sort of be encouraged to take charge. A lot of different ways that organizations and supporters can be involved that are pretty common. If there are pieces of a trail that might be on property for any large campuses or employers, getting them engaged to dedicate that land, potentially provide maintenance, those sorts of things, either through an easement on the land or, signing some of that, the small strip of land over, whether it's on seen that a few times where it's on, the very edge of the property that makes that possible, or sponsoring maintenance signage, the cleanup for adopt a trail programs where you have sections of the trail that are sponsored. That's often very popular. And, really facilitating those conversations from that sort of neutral perspective can be super helpful. and, really be seen as the MPO folks can really be seen as that sort of neutral partner working for the good of the community where, um, you know, say that I know that we are bike advocacy organizations are often seen as, sort of, I'll put quotes, those crazy bike people. But I think in a lot of cases, we all do have very common goals and values in terms of improving connectivity, improving health, and making sure that our communities have safe places to be active and to get to their daily destinations. Next slide. All right, well, that's perfect because I know we only have a few minutes left for any questions. I'm always happy to talk to folks about these things. And yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of this conversation. So thank you so much.
Kendra, thank you. I did have a question for you. Early on, you mentioned the hard truth about fundraising, that it is hard. And so I'm just curious, when you get to that place where it's hard for us that we write grants for a majority of our work, how can we really get the boots on the ground to get involved in fundraising?
Yeah, I think there are a number of ways. Sharing information can be critical. And I understand that there are often concerns of, you know, being biased or sharing information with constituencies, and there can be concerns there. But I think providing information to folks in the community about different resources, by resources I mean organizations like ours, like the Elizabeth River Greenway Foundation, that are doing work that people might be interested in. Think about it as like the public radio, your public radio PSAs, where you're not saying, I think you should give them money, but you're saying, I think you might be interested in the work they do. And you should go check them out. I think that there are also a lot of opportunities giving through your employer, if employers, especially there are public agencies that have those giving through your paycheck, if you're able to sometimes smaller nonprofits are less can be less equipped to understand the ins and outs of getting on that United Way list, or
Right.
and if if you're pro trail and you know that your employer has one of those, maybe reaching out and suggesting, hey, did you know you can get on this list? I think we're on a few of those ourselves, but it can take some time.
Thank you for answering that. And Kendra Green, I was wondering if you could chime in about that United Way. How do nonprofits get on that list? Because United Way, I think, is really known for feeding the hungry and things like that, more daily living. And so a trail seems a little bit of a far reach. So could you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I mean, so you might think that, but if we think about our social determinants of health, I think part of our job in this world is to think of trails as essential benefits to the community. Again, I just keep thinking about all of those social determinants of health that we are struggling with here in our community, be it physical health, mental health, access to green space and equity. And so I've have found that it is just telling that story. We know that this is not a made up thing, that time outdoors it improves your mental health. So one of the things that the United Way has focused on, but yes, you are right, food is important, and beds and housing and shelter and those Maslow's hierarchy of needs are all very important, but mental health has also become a very big priority for them. And so I have found that I have just had to pivot my storytelling to really focus on the fact that we do that with all of our programming. We talk about, we have a feelings wheel, right? Like, how are you feeling before
Oh,
you start
yes.
this walk, and how are you feeling
Yes.
after? And so we incorporate that at pretty much everything we do. And so taking that approach, and that's how we went through our initial application to become a certified agency, which granted it's time, it's a lot of effort, but yeah, once we became a certified agency, we go through a renewal process every year, and we just continue to strengthen the work that we do that way.
Well, thank you so much. And I just want you to know, I know what the feeling wheel is and I love it.
Good.
And I wanted to ask if Sean McGill Legendre, am I pronouncing that correctly? Sean, you had a question about that glow path. Do you mind sharing that, please?
Yeah, happy. And it was already answered. I was asking about the expected lifetime of it, and essentially whether it was painted on or embedded. Sounds like the lifetime is 20 years, which for some trails is the life of the pavement anyway. So I imagine it could just be renewed as part of that process.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I've been trying to answer some of the questions as I can. So yeah, it's embedded. We had a Taylor Construction, a local contractor who does a lot of our amenities installation. They were awarded that project. They were very excited to get to be, the first to work on it, and they did a lot of, research with the ambient glow technology. They're a company out of Canada to really learn, okay, what is the best way to do this? And I'll just if I have time, you could see that we didn't just jump the stones. We made it pretty. We put it in the shape of a fiddlehead fern, and that was all just trial and error. We literally made like 16-foot foam fiddlehead pieces and laid it over wet concrete and sprinkled the stones around it. So just, and then there was a process of letting it set. But yeah, no, it's a 20-year expectancy. So AGT is the company.
Okay. I think that was your question, Robert. So any other questions in the chat for either of our Kendras? All right. And I want to thank you both. And looks like we got one more question here before I turn it back over to Ellen.
Trying to answer some questions, so that might have been me.
Oh. Okay. All right. Do you want to answer that question for the rest of the group, Kendra, that you just typed into the chat?
So the question, and this is what I hear a lot of, is just kind of like who's responsible for the, design and construction phases and project development and all that good stuff. So again, we're uniquely lucky that our trail looks the way it does because we have a master planning committee that is just passionate volunteers. That our organization was 2 years volunteer run before there was a staff person, and they're made up of a principal architect of an architecture firm and urban planners, landscape architects, designers. And so they put so much pro bono and in-kind work into the design of our trails. So that's unique. We're very lucky. And so that's where a lot of the design came. Timmons Engineering got a lot of the construction phases to 30% design. But we have not received any federal funding at all since 2003, when Norfolk Southern granted us a section of right of way for an abandoned rail trail that kind of got us started. So
just one moment there. I want to ask Dustin. He had a question, and I think that would probably be our last question for this webinar. If you could chime in, Dustin.
Find the button. Yeah, I was just wondering if the housing values or home values was a consideration also as an economic driver.
Spot on, 100%. So we are now listed, RAIN, the REIN, the real estate, network, now specifically lists, locations along, if the house is located within walking distance of the trail or along the trail. And there's been when I presented to economic development, for grant funds for the economic impact study, I drew from those RAIN listings and showed the difference in housing values in our 28 communities. And again, it's great, that's great, but I also want to consider my neighbors to the east, where trail is a concern, right? We're looking at historically underserved neighborhoods and they're concerned, right? Are you going to raise my property taxes? So we're trying to balance both of those things. But yeah, good question.
Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Ellen now.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you so much for pulling this webinar together with these two terrific speakers. Thank you to Kendra and Kindra. This is a first for us, having those two names as speakers on a webinar. We definitely want to do this again, though. And finally, thanks to everyone who joined us. We appreciate you being a part of our webinar program, and we hope to see you at another one very soon down the road. Take care, y'all.